That's how I knew something was wrong. Not the sympathetic looks from the lawyer. Not the way my son James arrived 20 minutes late with his wife Bella, both dressed like they were closing a business deal instead of mourning my brother. It was the seat pushed into the corner away from the mahogany table where real decisions got made. Bella didn't even try to hide it. She slid into the chair I'd been eyeing, the one with the clear view of the lawyer's documents. Her Chanel purse, I recognized it from a magazine at the dentist's office. $4.800 landed on the table with a thud that said, "This is my space now." "Sorry we're late, Mom." James squeezed my shoulder as he passed. His hand felt cold through my cardigan. "Traffic was murder coming from the city." I nodded. Didn't mention that I'd driven twice as far from my apartment in Phoenix and arrived 30 minutes early. Didn't mention that my hands had been shaking so badly on the steering wheel that I'd had to pull over twice. My brother Robert was gone. 68 years of shared memories teaching me to ride a bike, walking me down the aisle when Dad couldn't, calling every Sunday without fail, reduced to a manila folder on a lawyer's desk. The coffee pot sat in the center of the table, fresh brewed steam curling toward the ceiling. I reached for it, my throat dry from the 3-hour drive. Bella's hand shot out faster than I could blink, her fingers manicured in that deep red that probably cost more than my monthly electric bill wrapped around the pot handle. "Maybe not, Evelyn." Her voice was honey-sweet. Too sweet. "Wouldn't want it spilling on your papers." My papers. As if I was the clumsy old woman who couldn't be trusted around hot liquids. I pulled my hand back slowly, let it settle in my lap, pressed my thumb into my palm until I felt the bite of my own fingernail. That's how I knew I was still breathing, still present, still watching my daughter-in-law treat me like a child in a room where I was supposed to be family. Thomas Whitfield cleared his throat. The lawyer my brother's lawyer, recommended by Robert himself, looked tired. Grief sat heavy in the lines around his eyes. He'd known Robert for 30 years. He'd been at the funeral 3 days ago, standing in the rain while the rest of us huddled under umbrellas. "Let's begin," Thomas said. James gave him a little nod, as if to say, "Go ahead, we're ready. We're ready. Not we're grieving. Not this is hard. Ready." Like this was a business meeting they'd been preparing for. I folded my hands tighter in my lap. The leather of my purse dug into my ankle where I'd tucked it under my chair. Inside was a sealed envelope. Cream-colored paper, my name in Robert's unmistakable handwriting. He'd given it to me 2 years ago after his first heart attack. "Don't open it unless you need to," he'd said. His hand had trembled when he pressed it into mine. "Promise me, Evie, only when you need to." I'd promised. The envelope had lived in my purse ever since moving with me from bag to bag like a talisman I didn't understand. Thomas began reading. The first few minutes were standard Robert's wishes about the funeral already executed, a list of personal items for old friends, a donation to the American Heart Association, $5,000 to the shelter where he volunteered every Saturday. Then Thomas paused, shuffled papers, glanced at me with something that looked like concern. "To my sister Evelyn Gable," he read, "I leave the entirety of the lodge in White Elk County, Colorado, including its land contents and associated deed. The property is to be hers free and clear with no encumbrances." The words hung in the air like smoke. A few heads turned toward me. The paralegal, the notary, Thomas's assistant who'd been taking notes in the corner. James didn't turn. He clapped. Once. Too loud in the quiet room. "That's wonderful news, Mom." His voice boomed with manufactured enthusiasm. "We'll finally get to build something together." "We," not you, not congratulations on inheriting your brother's beloved property. "We." Bella leaned forward so fast her chair scraped against the hardwood. "A family retreat center." She was already scrolling on her tablet, the glow lighting up her face. "Wellness packages. Maybe winter skiing specials. James and I have been developing concepts. For property I'd just inherited. Property I hadn't even seen in 5 years because Robert had been too sick to host visitors, and I'd been working double shifts at the elementary school cafeteria to keep my insurance. "The location is perfect," James continued, as if Thomas wasn't still holding the will, as if there weren't 6 more pages to read. "We've already connected with an architect. Thompson from Boulder. He's done 3 resort properties. We could break ground by spring." My throat closed. Not from grief, from the sudden horrible realization that they'd been planning this. Planning it while Robert was still alive, maybe. While I'd been rationing my blood pressure medication and choosing between groceries and my heating bill, they'd been sketching blueprints for a property that wasn't even mine yet. "We'll take the Gable name," Bella said, angling her tablet toward me. Stock photos of spa resorts filled the screen. White robes, stone pathways, infinity pools overlooking mountains. And finally make it worth something. Finally make it worth something. My brother had bought that lodge 37 years ago, saved for a decade to afford it. He'd restored every beam, replaced every window, kept the original stone fireplace that dated back to 1923. He'd hosted family Thanksgivings there, taught my son to fish in the creek that ran through the property, let my grandchildren, James's kids from his first marriage before the divorce, spend every summer climbing trees and catching fireflies. Worth something. As if the memories held in those walls were worthless compared to weekend packages and wine pairings. I didn't speak. Couldn't speak. Just pressed my thumbnail deeper into my palm until I felt the skin break. Thomas was still reading. Something about Robert's book collection going to the local library. His vintage fishing rods to his friend Marcus from the Veterans Hall. But James and Bella weren't listening. They were building an empire in Whisper's heads together, her tablet propped between them like a blueprint for my future. "The master bedroom," James said, tracing something on the screen. "That could be our VIP investor suite. The view from there is incredible." "We'll need to update the kitchen," Bella added. "Industrial equipment. Maybe bring in a chef for premium packages." I looked down at my hands. 67 years old. Skin thin enough to see the veins. Knuckles swollen from arthritis that flared up every winter. Hands that had worked, really worked for 4 decades. Hands that had held my brother's when he got the cancer diagnosis. When his wife died. When he'd made me promise to protect the lodge from anyone who'd turn it into something cheap. Anyone who'd turn it into something cheap. At the edge of my vision, my purse sat half unzipped. The corner of that cream envelope peeked through, faded red like dried brick. "Only when you need to." I needed to. Thomas finished reading. The room started to empty, people offering condolences. I barely heard hands. I shook automatically. Bella was already on her phone, typing rapidly. "I'm texting the architect," she announced to no one in particular. "We should get the survey done before winter." James touched my arm. "Mom, I know this is overwhelming, but don't worry, I'll handle everything. You just enjoy the view. Relax. You've earned it. You've earned it." Like I was being put out to pasture. Like the lodge was a retirement gift instead of an inheritance. Like my role was to sit in a rocking chair and smile while they demolished everything Robert had built. I stood, smoothed the front of my coat thrift store find, 3 years old, missing a button I'd replaced with one that almost matched. "I'd like some time. Alone, to process." "Of course," James said quickly. Too quickly. "Take all the time you need. Bella and I will start preliminary planning. Just logistics. We won't do anything major without talking to you. Without talking to you. Not without your permission. Not without your approval. Talking to me. Like I was being consulted. Informed. Not like I was the owner. I left the office before they could see my hands shaking. Before I could say something I'd regret. Before the anger burning in my chest could escape as tears they'd mistake for grief. In my car doors locked, I pulled out the envelope. My name in Robert's handwriting blurred as my eyes filled. "Only when you need to." I opened it. I left Phoenix at dawn, the envelope's contents spread across my passenger seat. A flash drive, a handwritten letter, and a business card for Thomas Whitfield with a phone number circled 3 times in red ink. The letter was simple. Classic Robert, no wasted words. Just the truth laid bare, Evie. If you're reading this, I'm gone, and James has shown you who he really is. 3 years ago, he came to me asking for $400,000. He'd gotten into some trouble, gambling debts, he said. Bad investments. He needed to make it right before Bella found out. I said no, not because I didn't have it, because I knew giving him money wouldn't fix the real problem. He said something that night I'll never forget. "You should just die already. Then everything would be mine anyway." I don't think he meant it. Not really. But I heard it clear as day. And I knew I had to protect you. Protect the lodge. There's more on the flash drive. Video, recordings, proof that James has been planning this for years. Not with Bella, she came later, made it worse. But the seed was always there. I've set up a trigger clause in the will. Thomas knows about it. If anyone tries to commercialize the lodge or transfer the deed without your explicit notarized consent, the property automatically goes to the National Land Trust. Forever protected. But here's the thing you have to let them try. Let them plan. Let them reveal themselves. Only then will the clause activate, and only then will you see James clearly enough to make the choice I know you'll have to make. I love you. Be strong. Robert, I'd pulled over at a rest stop somewhere in New Mexico. Sat in the parking lot for an hour engine off reading the letter until I'd memorized every word. My son, my baby boy who'd held my hand crossing streets, who'd cried when his goldfish died, who'd called me every Mother's Day until he met Bella 5 years ago. 400,000 in gambling debts. You should just die already. I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. The one luxury I'd allowed myself refurbished 200 at Best Buy so I could video chat with my grandkids before James's divorce made those calls stop happening. The first video was dated 3 years ago. Robert's home office. Late evening, judging by the darkness outside his window. James sat across from him. Younger, more hair, but that same expression I'd seen in the lawyer's office, confident, entitled like the world owed him something. I'm not asking for charity, Uncle Robert. I'm asking for an investment. A bridge loan. For gambling debts. Robert's voice was steady, sad. That's not an investment, James. That's enabling. I'll pay you back, with interest. I just need, what you need is help. Professional help. There are programs. I don't need a program. I need 400,000. The video continued. 15 minutes of James pleading, reasoning, then finally threatening. The words he'd said you should just die already came at minute 13. Casual. Bitter. Thrown out like he was complaining about traffic. Robert had stayed calm, told James to leave, to think about what he'd said. James had left. The video ended. There were 4 more videos, each one showing James returning, apologizing, then asking again. Slightly different approaches. Same desperation underneath. The last video was dated 6 months before Robert's death. Bella appeared for the first time. Mr. Gable, she'd said, perched on the edge of Robert's couch. Professional. Polished. I'm here to help mediate. James tells me there's been some tension. There's been honesty, Robert had replied. Something I suspect you're not familiar with. Bella's smile hadn't wavered. I understand you're protective of your estate. That's wise. But James is family. And family takes care of each other. Family doesn't threaten family. Family doesn't circle like vultures waiting for death. Nobody's circling. Her voice had cooled. We're planning. There's a difference. Planning what? The future. The lodge specifically. It's a valuable property wasted on... She'd caught herself. It could be more. That's all I'm saying. Robert had stood. This conversation is over. And Bella, I know who you are. Rebecca Stone. The woman who destroyed the Reeves family ranch 4 years ago. Changed your name, changed your story, but not your playbook. The video ended with Bella's face frozen in shock. I watched all 5 videos twice, took notes, copied everything to a second flash drive I kept in my glove compartment, a habit from my years as a teacher's aide, always backing up important files. Then I drove. 6 hours through desert and mountain passes, stopping only for gas and coffee I couldn't taste. Late afternoon sun caught the stone chimney, made the windows glow golden. 2 stories of hand-cut timber and river rock. The porch where Robert and I used to shell peas in summer. The swing where I'd read to James when he was 5 before life got complicated. 2 cars already filled the driveway. James's BMW, a contractor's truck with Thompson architecture on the side. They'd beaten me here. By hours, maybe. Long enough to start making themselves at home. I sat in my car for 5 full minutes, watching, breathing, pressing my thumb into my palm until the pain centered me. Let them plan. Let them reveal themselves. I grabbed my overnight bag, packed before I'd left Phoenix, before I'd even known I'd be coming here. Some part of me had known that this place would become a battlefield. The front door was unlocked. Inside, voices echoed through the great room. Extend the deck here, wrap it around the south side. Permits will take 60 days minimum, but I have contacts. Investor prospectus by next week. We need numbers. I stepped into the great room. 12 people milled around. Not just James and Bella. A man in a pressed shirt with blueprints. 2 women with iPads. A photographer setting up lighting equipment in the corner. James saw me first. "Mom, perfect timing. Come meet Dylan Thompson. He's the architect I was telling you about." Dylan Thompson extended his hand. 30-something sincere smile calluses that said he actually worked with his hands. "Mrs. Gable, I'm sorry for your loss. Your brother spoke very highly of you." "You knew Robert?" Something flickered across Dylan's face. Discomfort. "We met. Briefly. He was particular about his property." "Particular meaning he told you no." The words came out sharper than I'd intended. Dylan's expression shifted. Respect, maybe. "He told me that the lodge wasn't for sale, wasn't for development, that it was meant to stay exactly as it was. And yet here you are." "James said," Dylan glanced at my son, "I was told you'd approved preliminary surveys." I looked at James. He had the decency to look away. "I think there's been a miscommunication," I said quietly. "The lodge was left to me, not to James. Decisions about its future are mine alone." "Of course," Bella interjected, smooth as silk. "Nobody's suggesting otherwise. We're just exploring possibilities, getting ahead of the logistics so when you're ready to move forward, we'll have options." "When you're ready to move forward? Not if, when. Like my agreement was inevitable, like I was just a signature waiting to happen." "I'd like everyone to leave," I said. "Now. This is private property." The room froze. The photographer lowered his camera. The iPad women exchanged glances. "Mom," James started, "we've got Dylan here from Boulder. He's on a tight schedule." "Then he should go." I met Dylan's eyes. "I appreciate your time, but whatever James told you, whatever he promised, it's not happening." Dylan nodded slowly, started packing his blueprints. "I understand. Mrs. Gable, for what it's worth, your brother loved this place. He'd be glad it's in your hands." He left. The iPad women followed. The photographer started breaking down his equipment. Bella remained. She was texting furiously, jaw tight. "You just cost us 3 weeks of planning." "I cost you nothing. You did this to yourselves." "We're trying to help you," she hissed. "This place is a money pit. The property taxes alone are paid through the end of the year. Robert made sure. I'd found that in the will paperwork. Of course he had. He'd thought of everything. And after that, what's your plan? Evelyn, live here alone, playing house with memories while the roof caves in." "That's my decision to make." James finally spoke. "Mom, please, can we just talk about this rationally?" "Rationally." I set my bag down, crossed to the fireplace where Robert's photo sat taken last summer, smile-wide eyes bright, despite the cancer eating him from inside. Rationally would have been asking me first, before hiring architects, before making plans, before treating my inheritance like your opportunity. "It is our opportunity," Bella said flatly. "James is your only child, your only heir. Everything you have becomes his eventually. We're just accelerating the timeline." Accelerating the timeline. 4 words that said everything. I was an obstacle, an inconvenience, a delay in their plans. "Get out," I said. "Excuse me, both of you. Out. This is my home now. You're not welcome here." James paled. "Mom, you don't mean that." "I've never meant anything more clearly in my life." Bella grabbed her purse. "Fine. We'll give you space to cool down. But Evelyn, you're making a mistake. This lodge is worth $1.38 million. You're living on Social Security and whatever's left of Dad's life insurance. You need us. I need peace, and you're standing in the way of it." They left. Finally, Bella's heels clicking hard against the wood floors, James trailing behind like a scolded child. Through the window, I watched their BMW disappear down the gravel drive. Then I locked the door. Every door. Checked every window. Only then did I let myself sink onto Robert's couch. The leather creaked, worn soft from years of use. His reading glasses still sat on the side table. A book marked halfway through. Blood Meridian, the same copy he'd been trying to get through for 3 years. I picked up the glasses, traced the frames, let the tears come. My brother was gone. My son had become a stranger, and I was alone in a house full of ghosts holding a flash drive full of betrayals. But I wasn't helpless. Robert had seen to that. I pulled out my phone. Thomas Whitfield's number was still in my recent calls. He answered on the second ring. "Evelyn, I was wondering when you'd call." "Tell me about the trigger clause," I said. "Tell me everything." I discovered it that first night after Thomas had explained the legal protections Robert had built into the will. I'd been exploring the lodge, relearning its corners, remembering which floorboards creaked where the light fell best in the afternoon. Robert's office was at the end of the upstairs hall, heavy oak door, brass knob that had always turned easily before. Now it wouldn't budge. I tried again, pulled harder, pressed my ear against the wood listening for what I didn't know. Some sign that explained why my brother's private space was suddenly off limits in a house I supposedly owned. "Evelyn?" James's voice floated up from downstairs. I jerked back from the door. He wasn't supposed to be here. I'd told them to leave. Told them, "Mom, where are you?" I descended the stairs slowly, found James in the kitchen making coffee like he owned the place. Bella was nowhere in sight. "What are you doing here?" "Checking on you." He looked earnest, concerned, the son I remembered from before. "I felt bad about earlier, about how we handled things." "You mean about planning to commercialize my property without asking?" "Yeah, that." He ran a hand through his hair gesture I recognized had seen him do since he was a teenager struggling with homework. "We got ahead of ourselves. I got ahead of myself." I waited. Didn't help him. Didn't offer forgiveness he hadn't earned. "The thing is," he continued, "I owe some people money. Bad investments. I thought if I could get this resort thing going, I could fix everything. Make it right." "How much?" "What? How much do you owe?" James looked away. "That's not important." "How much, James?" $350,000. The number fell like a stone. "Maybe more with interest." My blood went cold. "Gambling." His silence was answer enough. "Jesus, James." I sank into a chair. "Your uncle tried to help you. 3 years ago. You told him to die." "He told you." James's face went white. "He promised he wouldn't." "He's dead, James. The promise died with him." "I didn't mean it. You have to know that. I was desperate. I said something stupid." "You said something true." I stood. "You wanted him dead so you could inherit, so you could fix your mistakes with his money." "No. Mom, no. I wanted help. I was drowning. And now you're dragging me down with you." "That's not—" He stopped, started again. "Bella has investors. Real ones. If we can just get the lodge converted, we'll make enough to pay everything back, with profit. You'd be set for life." "I don't want to be set. I want to be free. Free to what? Live here alone. You can't maintain this place on your own. The heating system is 30 years old. The roof needs work. The septic is fine. Robert maintained everything, kept records. I'd found those too in the file cabinet by the water heater. Receipts and warranties and professional assessments. My brother had been thorough. James slumped against the counter. "I don't have time, Mom. The people I owe, they're not patient. If I don't have something solid by next month, they're going to—" He stopped. "Going to what?" "Nothing. Forget it." "James." I crossed to him, put my hand on his arm, felt him trembling. "What are you involved in?" "Nothing I can't fix. If you just sign the deed over. Temporarily. We'll set up a trust, put it in your name, but give me power of attorney to handle the business side." I stepped back. "No." "Mom." "No. I'm not signing anything. You don't understand what's at stake. I understand that you're desperate. I understand that you've made choices that put you in danger. But I won't sacrifice your uncle's legacy to bail you out." James's face hardened. The earnest concern vanished, replaced by something colder. "This isn't over." "Yes, James, it is." He left without another word. Didn't slam the door, didn't yell, just walked out with the quiet determination of someone who hadn't given up. I waited until his car disappeared. Then I went back upstairs to the locked office door. In the bathroom, I found a bobby pin in my old cosmetic bag. Robert's late wife had taught me how to pick simple locks when we'd gotten locked out of the garage one Thanksgiving. "Every woman should know how to get past a locked door," she'd said with a wink. The lock was old, simple. It took me 3 tries and 5 minutes of fumbling, but it clicked open. Inside the office looked untouched. Robert's desk, his computer, filing cabinets lined against one wall, and a small safe hidden behind a framed photo of our parents. The safe had a keypad. I tried Robert's birthday, our mother's birthday, the date he'd bought the lodge. Nothing. Then I remembered. The date our mother died. 1952. The safe clicked open. Inside was a folder. thick, filled with papers, photos, printouts of emails. And another letter, this one addressed simply, "When you find this. Evie, you found the safe. Good. That means you're ready to know everything. The office was locked because James has a key. I gave it to him years ago before I knew what he'd become. He's been in here. Not recently, I changed the safe code last year. But he knows there are documents here, things I've been gathering. In this folder you'll find photos of James at casinos in Vegas, Atlantic City, and Reno. Time-stamped, some as recent as 6 months ago. Loan agreements with very dangerous people, Sharks Evie, the kind who don't just ruin credit scores. Emails between James and Bella going back 4 years. Planning this, planning to get the lodge converted, flip it for profit. Background on Bella, real name Rebecca Stone. She's done this before. Married into families' identified assets, convinced her husbands to liquidate, then disappeared with the money. 4 times that I could find. Probably more. I hired a private investigator. Cost me $15,000 I didn't tell you about. Worth every penny. Here's what you need to know. James didn't choose Bella randomly. She chose him. Found him at a casino, targeted him specifically because he's my nephew. Because she researched our family and saw the lodge. James is a victim as much as he's a perpetrator. She's been manipulating him from the start. But and this is important, he's still responsible for his choices. He chose to gamble, chose to lie, chose to threaten me. The trigger clause in the will is your protection. As long as you don't sign anything, as long as you don't agree to commercialize or transfer the property, it stays yours. The moment anyone tries to force you, tries to file fraudulent paperwork, tries to claim ownership, they don't have the lodge automatically transfers to the National Land Trust. Forever protected, forever safe. But Evie, you have to let them try. You have to let them show themselves fully. Only then will the clause activate. Only then will you see clearly enough to decide what to do about James. I love you. Be smarter than they think you are. Robert, I read the letter 3 times. Then I opened the folder. The photos were damning. James at roulette tables, poker rooms, slot machines. His face flushed, desperate, chasing losses. The loan documents were worse. $350,000 borrowed from someone named David Sterling. Interest rate 15% compounding monthly. Penalty clause for late payment to be determined by lender. The emails between James and Bella made my stomach turn. From Bella to James. The old man won't last another year. The doctors give him 6 months tops. Once he's gone, you inherit, we convert the property, and we're free. Just keep him happy. Keep him thinking you care. From James to Bella. What if he leaves it to Mom instead? From Bella to James. Then we work through her. She trusts you. She'll sign whatever you put in front of her. Women her age don't understand legal documents anyway. The dates were 2 years old, long before Robert's final decline. They'd been planning this while he was still healthy, still hoping. I photographed every page with my phone, copied everything to my laptop, backed it up to the cloud to my flash drive to an external hard drive I found in Robert's desk drawer. Then I put everything back exactly as I'd found it. Closed the safe. Locked the office door. Downstairs I made tea. Sat at the kitchen table. Watched the sun set through the western windows, painting the mountains purple and gold. My phone buzzed. Text from James' mom. I'm sorry about earlier. Can we try again? Dinner tomorrow. I didn't respond. Another text came 5 minutes later. From a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Gable, this is Dylan Thompson, the architect. I wanted to reach out personally. Your son contacted me 3 months ago about the lodge. He told me you were elderly, declining mentally, and that he had power of attorney. I believed him. I should have verified. I'm sorry. If you need someone to testify about what he claimed, I'm willing. Here's my direct number. I saved the contact. Typed back, thank you. I may take you up on that. His response came immediately. I've seen this before. Adult children taking advantage. It's more common than people think. Protect yourself. I set the phone down, wrapped my hands around the tea mug. Let the warmth seep into my arthritic joints. Protect yourself. Robert had given me the tools, the legal protections, the evidence, the warnings. Now I just had to be strong enough to use them. I didn't answer James's calls, didn't respond to his texts. Let Bella's voicemails pile up unlistened. I spent the time learning the lodge again. Every room, every closet, every hiding place from childhood games of hide and seek. I found Robert's journal in his bedroom nightstand, leather-bound pages filled with his doctor's orders handwriting. The entries from the last year were painful to read. June 15th. James called again asking about my health. Not how are you feeling, but have you updated your will lately? I pretended not to notice. July 8th. Evelyn visited, brought her famous zucchini bread. Didn't tell her about the stage 4 diagnosis. She has enough to worry about. Her apartment building is selling. She's looking at places she can barely afford. August 10th. Caught James in my office. He said he was looking for old photos. The safe was warm when I checked later. He'd tried to open it. Failed. September 3rd. Met with Thomas. Set up the trigger clause. If I'm right about James and Bella, this will protect Evie. If I'm wrong, she can override it. Either way, she chooses. Not them. September 28th. James brought Bella to dinner. She asked detailed questions about the property value, maintenance costs, insurance. Took photos of every room with her phone. They think I don't notice. October 15th. Chest pains worse. Hospital says maybe 3 months. Haven't told anyone. Need to finish securing everything for Evie first. November 1st. Changed the safe combination. Added new documents. If Evie finds this, she'll know what to do. She's stronger than she thinks. The journal ended there, 3 weeks before he died. I sat on his bed holding the journal and cried. For my brother. For the son I'd raised who'd become someone I didn't recognize. For the future that should have been different. Then I dried my eyes. Put the journal back. Went downstairs to make dinner. That's when I heard the voices outside. Through the kitchen window, I saw them, James and Bella, standing next to a county assessor's truck. A woman in a government jacket was walking the property perimeter with them taking notes. I opened the door, stepped onto the porch. What's going on? The assessor looked up, startled. James smiled that too bright smile that meant he was caught. Mom, hi, this is Linda from the county assessor's office. Just doing a routine evaluation for the property records. Routine? I repeated. Linda looked between us, clearly sensing the tension. Ma'am, are you the property owner? I am. Then I apologize. I was told the owner had requested this assessment for potential rezoning. I requested no such thing. James jumped in. I must have miscommunicated, Linda. Sorry for the confusion. We can reschedule. No need to reschedule, I said, because there will be no rezoning, no assessment, no changes to this property whatsoever. Linda nodded, closing her notebook. Understood. Mr. Gable, please don't contact our office again without written permission from the legal owner. She shot James a look that suggested this wasn't the first time she'd dealt with this situation. After she left, I turned to James and Bella. You tried to have it rezoned without telling me. We were being proactive, Bella said. The current zoning is residential. To build a resort, we need commercial zoning. It's a 6-month process. I don't care if it's a 6-year process. You don't get to make decisions about my property. Technically, Bella said, her voice going cold, the property taxes are due in 60 days. $14,000. Where exactly are you planning to get that money? My stomach dropped. I'd seen the property tax bill in Robert's files. He'd paid a year in advance, but that was 14 months ago. The next payment was coming due. $14,000. More than I had in savings. More than I could earn in 6 months on Social Security. Bella saw my expression and smiled. We're offering to cover it, as an investment, in exchange for power of attorney to manage the property's commercial development. You retain ownership. We handle everything else. And my brother's clause. What clause? But her eyes gave her away. She knew. The trigger clause. That makes the lodge revert to the National Land Trust if anyone tries to commercialize it. James and Bella exchanged glances. Quick. Worried. We talked to a lawyer, James said finally. There are ways around it. Legal challenges, grandfather clauses, get off my property. Mom, get out. They left, but Bella's words echoed in my head. Where exactly are you planning to get $14,000? I didn't know, but I had 60 days to figure it out. That night I called Thomas Whitfield again. The property tax, I said. If I can't pay it, the county can't seize the property, he interrupted. Not immediately. There's a grace period. Penalties, but no seizure for at least a year. And if they pay it, James and Bella, they can try. But unless you sign documentation accepting it as a loan with terms they're making a gift, they have no claim. So I let them pay it. Evelyn, Thomas's voice was gentle. Your brother left you more than the lodge. There's a bank account. He didn't mention it in the will reading because he wanted it to be private, between you and me. How much? $87,000, enough to cover property taxes for 5 years, maintenance, living expenses. I sat down hard. He never told me. He wanted to make sure James didn't know, didn't count on it. This money is yours, no strings, no probate. Direct transfer the day after the will was read. Why didn't you tell me? I'm telling you now, when you need to know. He paused. Robert was very clear about the timing. She'll need to see James's true nature first, he said. Then she'll need to know she's not trapped. I checked my bank account. There it was, deposited 3 days ago. I'd been so overwhelmed I hadn't even looked. 87,432 signs. My brother's final gift. His final protection. I cried again. Tears of relief this time. I had options. I had time. I had resources they didn't know about. Now I just needed a plan. Cold autumn rain that turned the gravel drive to mud and made the windows weep. I built a fire in the stone fireplace, wrapped myself in one of Robert's old flannel shirts, and organized my evidence. 3 folders. 1. Financial, James's debts. Bella's background, the casino photos. 2. Legal, the trigger clause, the deed, Thomas's documentation. 3. Communications, emails, texts, recorded conversations. I needed more. More proof that they were actively trying to defraud me. More documentation that would hold up if this went to court. That's when I remembered James had said Bella had investors. Real ones. People putting actual money into their resort scheme. If I could prove they were soliciting investment for property they didn't own, that was fraud. Clear. Prosecutable. I opened my laptop, searched for Pinnacle Ventures and Rebecca Stone. The results were damning. 4 lawsuits in 5 years. Each one following the same pattern. Rebecca Bella befriended wealthy families, identified valuable assets, convinced them to invest or develop the properties, then disappeared with the capital while the properties went to foreclosure. The Reeves family in Montana had lost a 2,000-acre cattle ranch. The Millers in Oregon lost a waterfront hotel. The Patterson family in Washington lost 3 coffee shops and their family home. Total damages across all cases, $4.8 million. And she'd never served jail time. Why I dug deeper. Found the answer in court documents she'd used shell companies. Made the investments look legitimate. By the time families realized what happened, she'd transferred the money offshore and filed bankruptcy under the business name. She'd learned from each case. Gotten better at hiding the trail. Now she'd set her sights on our lodge. I printed everything. Added it to the folders. Photographed each page and uploaded to 3 separate cloud accounts. If they destroyed the physical evidence, I'd still have backups. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Mrs. Gable, this is Rick Sanderson. I'm the contractor Dylan Thompson recommended. He said you might need someone for repairs. I didn't ask for a contractor. I know. Dylan was worried. He said your son has been making claims. Dylan thought you might need someone local. Someone who could document the actual condition of the property. In case you need to dispute any false claims about necessary repairs. I understood immediately. You're offering to be a witness. I'm offering to do a legitimate property assessment, for your records. No charge. And if your son's been lying about the lodge's condition, which Dylan suspects, you'll have proof. Why would you do this? Rick's voice softened. My mother went through something similar. Her second husband tried to have her declared incompetent so he could control her estate. By the time we figured it out, he'd already transferred half her assets. I won't watch it happen to someone else if I can help. When can you come? I'm 20 minutes away, if you're free now. I'll have coffee ready. Rick Sanderson arrived in a white pickup truck with Sanderson & Sons Construction on the side. 50-something work-worn hands-eyes that had seen too much hardship. He walked the property with me for 3 hours. Checked every system, electrical, plumbing, heating. Examined the roof, the foundation, the septic. Your brother maintained this place like a cathedral, Rick said, making notes on his tablet. The roof was replaced 6 years ago. Should last another 20. Heating system is old, but functioning perfectly. He had it serviced annually. Foundation is solid stone, no cracks. Plumbing is copper original to the 1923 build. Valuable, actually. People pay premium for this kind of craftsmanship now. So if someone claimed it needed extensive repairs, they'd be lying or trying to justify unnecessary work. He showed me his notes. I'll write this up formally, notarized, if you need it for legal purposes. I'll need it, he nodded. Didn't ask why. Didn't need to. Before he left, Rick handed me his card. On the back, he'd written a phone number. If things get dangerous, he said quietly, that's my brother. He's a sheriff's deputy in the next county. Not official jurisdiction here, but he knows people. Knows how to handle situations where families turn ugly. You think it will? Mrs. Gable, I've been doing this 30 years. I've seen what desperation does to people. Your son owes money to dangerous people. His wife has a history of fraud. This lodge is worth over $1 million. He met my eyes. They're not going to give up. And when people like that get desperate, they get dangerous. After Rick left, I sat on the porch in the rain. Let the cold soak through Robert's flannel shirt. Watched the mountains disappear into cloud. Dangerous. I'd been thinking of this as a legal battle, a family drama. But Rick was right. This was bigger. James owed $350,000 to someone named David Sterling. If he couldn't pay, what would Sterling do? And Bella, she'd already destroyed 4 families. What would she do to secure her 5th score? I thought about the locked office, about James having a key, about him knowing there were documents in the safe. What if he didn't give up? What if he tried to break in again? What if he tried to force me to sign papers? What if... And this thought made my blood run cold. What if they decided I was the obstacle? Elderly woman living alone, isolated property, heart condition. Accidents happened all the time. I went inside, locked every door, every window, checked them twice. Then I called Thomas Whitfield one more time. I need to update my will, I said. Tonight, tomorrow at the latest. What are you thinking? If anything happens to me, anything suspicious, I want a full investigation. I want the trigger clause activated immediately. I want every asset I have to go to charity, not to James. And I want Dylan Thompson and Rick Sanderson to serve as witnesses to my mental state and the threats I've received. Evelyn, do you think you're in danger? I think I'm an inconvenience worth $1.38 million to people who have already proven they're willing to commit fraud. Thomas was quiet for a long moment. I'll draft the update tonight. We'll meet tomorrow morning first thing. And Evelyn, consider staying somewhere else. A hotel. A friend's house. No. If I leave, they'll know they've won. That I'm scared. Being scared isn't weakness. It's wisdom. Robert didn't run. I won't either. That night I barely slept. Every sound was a potential threat. Every creak of old timber was an intruder. At 3 a.m. I heard a car in the driveway. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911, but didn't press send. Waited. The car idled for 5 minutes, then drove away. In the morning I found tire tracks in the mud, and footprints leading to the office window. Someone had tried to look inside, had stood there peering through the glass. They were watching, planning, and I was running out of time to stay ahead of them. Or maybe it wasn't an accident. Maybe some part of me knew to look deeper, to not accept the polished surface she presented. It was the logo that started it. That small triangle in silver on the brochure she'd slammed down, the one for the Gable experience. I'd seen it somewhere before, years ago in a conversation with my late husband. Michael had been a financial advisor, conservative, careful, the kind of man who read the fine print on everything. One night over dinner, he'd shown me an article about predatory investment firms. These people, he'd said, tapping the page, they target family businesses, offer capital, make it seem like partnership. Then they bury the family in paperwork until they own everything. The logo in that article had been a silver triangle, Pinnacle Ventures Group. I sat at Robert's desk at 4 a.m., unable to sleep after finding those footprints. My laptop glowed in the darkness as I searched. Pinnacle Ventures had an official website. Clean, professional. Testimonials from satisfied clients. Photos of successful properties. But a deeper search revealed the cracks. Lawsuits, 4 of them, filed in different states over the past 7 years. I clicked on the first case. Reeves v. Pinnacle Ventures, LLC, Montana District Court, 2019. The Reeves family had owned a cattle ranch outside Billings. 2,000 acres, 3 generations, debt-free, until Rebecca Stone came into their lives. According to the court documents, Rebecca had married Daniel Reeves, the youngest son. Within 6 months, she'd convinced the family to take out loans against the property to modernize operations. Pinnacle Ventures provided the capital at 18% interest. When the Reeves couldn't make payments, Pinnacle foreclosed. The family lost everything. The ranch sold at auction for $2.1 million. Pinnacle bought it through a shell company. Rebecca disappeared 2 weeks before the foreclosure, divorced Daniel by email, claimed she'd known nothing about the business arrangements. The lawsuit went nowhere. Rebecca had covered her tracks too well. I pulled up the other cases. Miller family in Oregon Waterfront Hotel, Patterson family in Washington coffee shop chain and family home, Thompson family in Idaho commercial real estate. Same pattern every time. Rebecca married in, identified valuable assets, convinced families to leverage those assets for development capital from Pinnacle, then vanished when everything collapsed. $4.8 million in total damages, and now she was married to my son targeting our lodge. But here's what made my hands shake as I read. In each case, there were warning signs before the collapse. Suspicious accidents. A fire at the Miller Hotel that destroyed financial records. A car accident that injured Patterson's father right before he was supposed to meet with lawyers. Thompson's mother had a fall that left her hospitalized during crucial negotiations. Nothing provable. Nothing prosecutable. But a pattern. Elderly woman living alone, isolated property. I took screenshots of everything. Sent copies to 3 different email accounts. Printed the most damaging pages and added them to my folders. Then I did something I hadn't planned. I searched for David Sterling, the man James owed $350,000. What I found made my blood run cold. He was Pinnacle Ventures, CEO and primary shareholder, which meant Bella hadn't just found James randomly at a casino. She'd been working for Sterling. This had been planned from the beginning. Find the mark, create the debt, offer the solution, take the asset. My son was a pawn in a game I was only beginning to understand. The sun was rising when I finally closed my laptop. Gray light filtered through the pine trees, making the mountains look like watercolor paintings. Beautiful and unreal. I made coffee, strong and black, sat at the kitchen table and tried to organize my thoughts. James was desperate. Bella was a con artist. David Sterling was the puppet master. But why this property, specifically Colorado, had hundreds of lodges, thousands of properties worth more than ours? I opened Robert's journal again, flipped to the entries from 8 years ago. April 3rd, 2017. That man showed up again. David Sterling. Calls himself a developer. Wants to buy the lodge for some resort company. Offered $900K. I said no. He wasn't happy. April 17th, 2017. Sterling came back. Offered $1.2 million. When I refused, he said I was sitting on wasted potential. Got aggressive. I called the sheriff. May 2nd, 2017. Sterling sent lawyers. They found an old mining claim from 1891 that supposedly gives him mineral rights to my land. Complete fabrication. I reported him to the state attorney general. June 15th, 2017. Sterling arrested for fraud. Not my case. Something else. He blamed me. Said I'd cost him everything. Threatened me in front of witnesses. Got 2 more years added to his sentence. I sat back, pieces clicking together. Sterling had served time because of Robert. Now Sterling was using James and Bella to get revenge and profit at the same time. This wasn't just about money. It was personal, which made it more dangerous. I looked through the window first. A man I didn't recognize. 50-something expensive suit, 2 other men flanking him like bodyguards. I didn't open the door. Can I help you? Mrs. Gable, I'm David Sterling. I believe we need to talk. My heart hammered. I have nothing to say to you. I think you do. I'm James's business partner. We have significant investments at stake. James has no authority to make business arrangements involving my property. Sterling smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Perhaps we're talking past each other. May I come in just for a moment? I promise I'm not here to cause trouble. Everything in me screamed to refuse, but I needed to see him. Needed to understand what James was really dealing with. I opened the door 6 inches, kept the chain lock engaged. Sterling's smile widened. Smart woman. Your brother was smart too. Stubborn but smart. What do you want, Mom? To make you an offer. A generous one. $1.8 million for the lodge. Cash. You walk away clean set for life. James's debt gets forgiven. Everyone wins. And if I refuse, his expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Something cold. Then we proceed through other channels. James signed papers, Mrs. Gable. Powers of attorney. Transfer agreements. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. James had no power of attorney to sign. He believed he did. That's all that matters in court. By the time you prove otherwise, if you can, the property will be tied up in litigation for years. Legal fees will eat whatever you have left. You'll die broken alone fighting a battle you can't win. I met his gaze. Get off my property. Think about it. I'll give you 48 hours. He handed me a business card through the gap. After that, things get complicated. They left. I watched through the window as their black SUV disappeared down the drive. Then I called 911. I need to report a threat, I told the dispatcher. A man named David Sterling just came to my home and threatened me. The deputy who responded was young, earnest, took notes carefully as I explained. But his expression told me what I needed to know. Ma'am, he didn't technically threaten you. He made you a business offer, even the part about litigation that's not illegal to mention. He said things would get complicated if I refused. That's vague, not specific enough for a restraining order. The deputy looked genuinely sorry. My advice, don't meet with him alone. Get a lawyer. Document everything. After he left, I sat on the porch, watched the mountains, tried to calm the shaking in my hands. They were escalating. 48 hours, 2 days to decide, but I didn't need 2 days. I knew my answer. Now I just needed to survive long enough to see it through. Alone this time. No Bella, no Sterling. He looked terrible, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes. The BMW was parked crooked in the drive like he'd been in too much of a hurry to care. Mom, his voice cracked. We need to talk. Really talk. I let him in, poured coffee, sat across from him at the kitchen table. Sterling came here, I said. James's face went gray. He wasn't supposed to. I told him to give you space. He gave me 48 hours to sell or face complications. God. James put his head in his hands. I'm so sorry. I never wanted this. Never wanted you involved. Then why am I... He looked up. His eyes were red. Because I'm an idiot. Because I made mistakes and kept making them until I was drowning and the only lifeline was your inheritance. Tell me everything. No lies, no spin, just truth. So he did. A business trip to Vegas. James had gone with colleagues from his marketing firm. Just for fun, he'd said. Just to try the tables. He won $8,000 his first night. Felt like magic. Like he'd discovered a secret the world was keeping from him. He went back, and back, and back. Within a year, he'd lost $50,000, maxed out 3 credit cards, took out a second mortgage on his house. His first wife, Sarah, mother of his 2 kids, found out. Filed for divorce. Got full custody because James couldn't prove financial stability. That's when Bella entered his life. She found me at a casino in Atlantic City, James said, staring into his coffee. I was at a poker table down $10,000 trying to win it back. She sat next to me, started talking. She was beautiful, interested, understanding. Said her ex-husband had gambling problems too, that she understood. She targeted you. I didn't know that then. I thought... His voice broke. I thought someone finally understood. Finally didn't judge me. Bella had been patient. Dated him for 6 months before mentioning Pinnacle Ventures. Introduced him to Sterling as a friend who could help. Sterling offered loans. Reasonable rates at first. Enough to pay off the credit cards. Consolidate the debts. But the rates weren't fixed. They ballooned. Compounded. By the time James realized what was happening, he owed $200,000. Sterling said there was one way out, James continued. One asset I could leverage. Uncle Robert's lodge. If I could get it, develop it, Sterling would clear the debt and split the profits. So you waited for him to die? No, God, no. I thought maybe I could talk him into it. Convince him to co-develop while he was still alive. Make it a family project. But he refused. He saw through it. Saw through me. James's hands were shaking now. That night when I told him to just die, I was drunk. Desperate. I didn't mean it, but I can't take it back. And Bella? She pushed, kept pushing, said we were running out of time, that Sterling was getting impatient, that if I didn't deliver, he'd... James stopped. He'd what, he'd hurt you, to motivate me. The words fell like stones between us. That's why I've been so aggressive, James said rapidly. Why I've been trying to force this through. I thought if I could just get the property converted, sold, everyone paid off, you'd be safe. We'd all be safe. James, you can't negotiate with people like Sterling. You can't appease them. I know that now, but what choice do I have if I don't deliver? He looked at me. Really looked at me. Mom, I think he'll kill you. Make it look like an accident. He's done it before. You have proof. Bella told me things when she was drunk about previous deals, about people who got in the way. James pulled out his phone. I started recording our conversations 3 weeks ago, in case I needed evidence. He showed me. Audio files, dates and times stamped. Bella's voice slurred with wine. The Miller fire wasn't an accident. David paid someone. $20,000 to torch the hotel, destroyed all their financial records. By the time they reconstructed everything, we owned the property. Another recording, Thompson's mother. That wasn't a fall. David has people. They make things happen. It's cleaner than you'd think. My blood ran cold. You've been sitting on this. I was scared. If Sterling found out I was recording Bella, he'd kill you too. Yeah, we sat in silence. The clock on the wall ticked. Outside, pine branches scraped against the window. I need these recordings, I said finally. All of them. Sent to my email, and to Thomas Whitfield, and to the State Attorney General. If I do that, Sterling will know. He's already planning something, James. You said it yourself. We're out of time for playing defense. Then what do we do? I looked at my son. Really looked at him. Saw the scared boy underneath the desperate man. Saw the mistakes and the manipulation and the genuine fear. He was a victim here too, not innocent, not blameless, but a victim nonetheless. We give him what he wants, I said slowly, or let him think we are. James would tell Bella I'd agreed to a meeting, a negotiation, with Sterling, Bella, James, and me, at the lodge. They'd come expecting surrender, expecting me to sign papers. Instead, they'd walk into evidence, recording devices, witnesses, everything documented. They'll never agree to witnesses, James said. They won't know about them. Rick Sanderson and Dylan Thompson can hide. Record everything from the office upstairs. The meeting happens in the great room. They'll hear every word. And then what? We hand recordings to police. Not just police, media, Attorney General, National Land Trust, everyone who needs to know that Pinnacle Ventures has been operating a criminal enterprise. James looked doubtful. Sterling slipped away before. What makes you think this time will be different? Because this time he's going to confess, on tape, to everything. Why would he do that? I smiled, not a happy smile, a cold one. Because I'm going to make him angry enough to forget to be careful. 6 p.m., the lodge. Final negotiations, James called it when he texted Bella. Her response came in seconds. Perfect. David will be pleased. Make sure she's ready to sign. I spent the day preparing, called Rick and Dylan, explained the plan. Both agreed immediately. I'll bring professional recording equipment, Dylan said. Audio and video, multiple angles. Nothing they say will be missed. And I'll have my brother on standby, Rick added. The deputy. If things go wrong, he can be here in 10 minutes. I met with Thomas Whitfield that afternoon, updated my will, signed affidavits, created a paper trail that would survive me if necessary. Evelyn, Thomas said as I was leaving, are you sure about this? These are dangerous people. I'm sure. My brother protected me. Now I need to protect what he left behind. That evening, as the sun set and shadows grew long, Rick and Dylan arrived. We set up the equipment. Cameras hidden in book spines on the shelves. Microphones tucked into lamp bases. Everything wireless, everything backed up to the cloud in real time. If they find the equipment, Dylan started, they won't look. People like Sterling are overconfident. They'll assume a woman my age is too naive to think of this. At 5:45, Rick and Dylan went upstairs, settled into the office with the door cracked, monitors showing 4 different angles of the great room. I stood alone, smoothed my cardigan, the same one I'd worn to the will reading, pressed my thumb into my palm. Be strong. Be smart. At exactly 6 p.m., I heard cars in the drive. Here we go. Sterling first. Same expensive suit. Same cold smile. Behind him, Bella in designer everything. James bringing up the rear, looking like he might be sick. Mrs. Gable. Sterling extended his hand. I didn't take it. Thank you for agreeing to meet. I didn't agree, I'm listening. There's a difference. Fair enough. He sat without being invited. Bella sat next to him. James hovered near the door. Let's be direct. You've had 48 hours. I'm prepared to raise my offer to $2 million final offer. For a property worth $1.38 million generous. I'm factoring in your cooperation, your silence about certain misunderstandings. You mean the fraud, the extortion, the threats. Sterling's smile didn't waver. Those are strong words, emotional words. In business, we prefer accurate terminology. Then let's be accurate. You targeted my nephew, used Bella to manipulate him into debt, planned to steal this property the same way you've stolen 4 others. Bella tensed. Sterling held up a hand. Mrs. Gable, I think you've been misinformed. James came to me for legitimate business loans. I provided capital in good faith. If he made poor investments, that's unfortunate, but not my responsibility. The Reeves family, the Millers, the Pattersons, the Thompsons, 4 families ruined. $4.8 million stolen. Alleged. Never proven. Sterling leaned forward. Let me tell you what I can prove. Your brother cost me 3 years of my life. He reported me to authorities on false charges. I served time because of his lies. You served time because you tried to steal his property with a fake mining claim. I served time because your brother was a vindictive old man who couldn't handle competition. Sterling's voice went cold. Finally, the mask slipping. He cost me everything. My reputation. My freedom. 3 years in a cage because he couldn't stand to see someone succeed. So this is revenge. This is justice. Your brother took from me. Now I'm taking from him. Only he's not here to suffer, so you get to instead. He smiled again. Cruel. Poetic, don't you think? And if I refuse to sell... Sterling stood, walked to the fireplace, picked up Robert's photo, the one from last summer. Then accidents happen. Old lodges, faulty wiring, gas leaks, elderly women living alone. He set the photo down carefully. The statistics are tragic, really. How many seniors die in house fires each year? My heart pounded, but I kept my voice steady. You're threatening to kill me. I'm noting possibilities, outcomes, the natural consequences of poor choices. You've done this before. The Miller Hotel fire, the accident that hurt Patterson's father. Alleged, unproven. But his smile confirmed it. He was enjoying this. Enjoying my fear. What about Thompson's mother, the fall that wasn't a fall? Accidents. Tragic accidents. He moved closer. Here's what's going to happen, Mrs. Gable. You're going to sign these papers. He nodded to Bella, who pulled documents from her bag. You're going to transfer the deed to a holding company I control. You're going to take your $2 million and disappear quietly. Live whatever years you have left in comfort. And if I don't, then you won't have years left. You'll have days, maybe hours. The room was silent, just the crackle of the fire, the tick of the clock. Then I smiled, really smiled. Thank you for clarifying, I said. Sterling frowned. Clarifying what? Your intentions, your methods, your past crimes. I looked at the bookshelf, at the camera hidden in the spine of Moby Dick. Every word of this conversation has been recorded. Audio and video, multiple angles, already backed up to the cloud and sent to 3 different attorneys. The color drained from Sterling's face. You're bluffing. Dylan, I called toward the stairs. Rick, please come down. Footsteps on the stairs. Dylan appeared first, holding his phone screen showing the live feed. Rick followed with a professional video camera. Every threat, Dylan said calmly. Every confession, every admission, time-stamped and authenticated. Sterling lunged toward the bookshelf. Rick stepped between us. Don't, Rick said. It's already uploaded. Destroying the equipment won't help. Bella was on her feet. You stupid old woman. Actually, I said I'm a very smart old woman. Smart enough to let you talk yourselves into prison sentences. Sterling's hands curled into fists. For a moment I thought he might attack. Might risk everything on one violent act. Then James spoke. It's over, Sterling. His voice was quiet but firm. I'm testifying. Against both of you. Bella whipped toward him. You traitor? I'm not a traitor. I'm your victim. And I'm done being one. Sterling pointed at James. You signed papers. You're complicit. You'll go down too. Maybe. Probably. James met my eyes. But at least my mother will be safe. We heard the sirens then, coming up the mountain road. Rick's brother, the deputy, plus state police, Thomas, had alerted an hour ago. I'd sit down if I were you, I told Sterling. Running will just make it worse. Extortion, fraud, conspiracy, terroristic threats. The charges kept mounting as police played the recordings, examined the documents Rick and Dylan had cataloged. They'd send the audio to federal authorities, to state attorneys general in 4 states. By tomorrow, the investigation into Pinnacle Ventures would be nationwide news. James wasn't arrested. Not yet. They'd need his testimony. He'd likely face charges, eventually fraud, maybe. Conspiracy to commit fraud. But he'd chosen the right side. Finally, when it mattered most. After the police left, after Sterling and Bella were driven away in separate squad cars, James and I sat alone in the great room. I'm sorry, he said. For everything. For all of it. I know. I'll go to rehab. For the gambling. And I'll face whatever charges come. I won't run. I know that too. Do you think... He stopped. Started again. Do you think we can ever fix this, you and me? I looked at my son. Saw the damage. Saw the potential for healing. Saw the long road ahead. I don't know, I said honestly. But you're alive. I'm alive. That's more than Sterling intended. Where do we start? With the truth. All of it. To the police. To your kids, they deserve to know why you disappeared from their lives. To yourself. James nodded. Wiped his eyes. Can I stay tonight on the couch? Just I don't want to be alone right now. I should have said no. Should have protected myself. Kept distance. But he was still my son. Broken, but mine. One night, I said. Then you check into rehab. Tomorrow. Tomorrow? He agreed. That night I finally slept. Really slept. For the first time since Robert died. Because the threat was over. Or so I thought. I found out when Thomas called at 6 a.m., waking me from the first real sleep I'd had in days. They set bail at $500,000. He posted it immediately. Evelyn, he's out. I sat up, heart pounding. How the charges? He has an expensive lawyer. Argued he's not a flight risk. That the charges are based primarily on a recording that could be challenged as entrapment. Thomas's voice was tight with frustration. The judge bought it. He's out pending trial. What about the restraining order? It's in place. He can't come within 500 feet of you or the property. But Evelyn men like Sterling don't always respect legal boundaries. I looked at James, still asleep on the couch. His face peaceful for the first time in days. He'd talked until midnight about the gambling, the debts, the lies he'd told himself. Then he'd cried. Really cried. And I'd held him like I used to when he was small and the world felt too big. What do? I asked Thomas. Come stay with me and my wife, just for a few days, until the arraignment. No, that's giving him power. Letting him chase me from my own home. Then let me hire private security. With what money, Thomas? I can't afford bodyguards. He was quiet. Then, Robert's account. There's enough. That money is for property taxes, maintenance. You can't spend it if you're dead. His voice softened. Please, let me at least hire someone for the nights. Someone to watch the property while you sleep. I wanted to refuse, to be brave and independent. But I thought about Sterling's face when he'd threatened me, the cold certainty in his eyes. Okay, I said, but just nights. During the day I'm fine. Retired sheriff's deputy, 62. Kind eyes that had seen too much darkness. He arrived that evening at 6 p.m. carrying a thermos of coffee and a paperback. Mrs. Gable. He shook my hand. I'll be outside in my truck. Motion sensors on all the doors and windows. Anyone comes near the property, I'll know. You need me, press this. He handed me a small button. Emergency alert. Go straight to my phone and 911. Thank you. Rick Sanderson told me what you're dealing with. Men like Sterling. He shook his head. They don't take losing well. You did good standing up to him. But be careful. The most dangerous time is right after they've been caught. That night I tried to sleep. Failed. Every sound was a potential threat. Every creak of settling timber was an intruder. At 2 a.m. my phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "You think you won? You didn't. This isn't over." I showed Marcus in the morning. He photographed it, sent it to the police. "Violation of the restraining order," he said. "But they'll say they can't prove Sterling sent it. Burner phone, untraceable. So he can just keep threatening me? Until he does something concrete, yeah. It's the flaw in the system." James left for rehab that afternoon. A facility in Montana, 30 days, minimum 60 recommended. He'd hugged me before he left. Held on longer than necessary. "I'll make this right, Mom. I promise. Just make yourself right. That's all I need." After he drove away, the lodge felt emptier than it had since Robert died. Just me and Marcus's truck in the driveway. And the waiting. Always the waiting. Marcus woke me at 1:47 a.m. pounding on the door. "Mrs. Gable, get up, someone's trying to break into the office." I grabbed my phone and the emergency button. Followed Marcus upstairs. The office door was ajar. Someone had picked the lock cleanly professionally, but they'd triggered the motion sensor Marcus had installed. Inside the safe stood open. Empty. "They knew the combination," I whispered. Marcus checked the room. Windows still locked from inside. They came through the house, which means they had a key. James's key. The one Robert had given him years ago. But James was in rehab. Checked in yesterday. No way to get here. Unless he'd given someone else the key before he left. I called the facility. Asked to speak to James. The night counselor was apologetic but firm. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Gable. Patients aren't allowed phone contact for the first 72 hours. It's part of the detox protocol. This is an emergency." "Everyone says that, ma'am. The rule exists for a reason. He'll be able to call you on Sunday." I hung up. Looked at Marcus. Could Sterling have made a copy of James's key before? Possibly. But how would he know the safe combination? That's when I remembered. The videos Robert had recorded. The ones of James asking for money. James had been in this office. Had seen Robert open the safe. Could have memorized the combination. And James had been sharing everything with Bella for months. "She told him," I said. "Bella knew the combination from James. She told Sterling. We called the police. They came, took statements, photographed the open safe. Problem is, the deputy said nothing's actually missing. You said yourself the important documents were removed days ago. Without stolen property, we can't prove attempted burglary, just trespassing. He violated the restraining order. If we can prove it was Sterling, not some random burglar." The deputy looked genuinely sorry. "I'll file the report. But Mrs. Gable, legally speaking, our hands are tied until he does something we can definitively prove." After they left, Marcus and I sat in the kitchen. Dawn was breaking. Neither of us had slept. "He's escalating," Marcus said. "Testing boundaries. Seeing what he can get away with." "What do I do?" "You leave. Today. Go somewhere he can't find you." "I can't run forever." "You can run until the trial. Until he's convicted and locked up. And if he's not convicted, if his expensive lawyers get him off." I shook my head. "Then I've lost anyway. Given up my home. Given him the power." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then, "There might be another way." "What way?" "Give him what he wants, or make him think you are." But Marcus laid it out logically. Sterling wanted the lodge. Wanted revenge on Robert through me. Wanted to win. "So we let him think he's winning," Marcus said. "We leak information. Make him believe you're ready to settle, ready to sell. He'll never believe that. Not after I had him arrested. He'll believe you're scared, exhausted. That the legal battle is too much, that you just want peace." "And then what?" "Then we set up a meeting. Public place. Lots of witnesses. You agree to discuss terms. But really, we're creating an opportunity for him to incriminate himself again. Only this time the police are there. Ready. He won't fall for it. Men like Sterling. They're arrogant. They think they're smarter than everyone else, and they can't resist the chance to gloat." Marcus leaned forward. "We make it look real. Make him feel safe. Then we trap him." I thought about it. About the alternative months of legal battles looking over my shoulder, waiting for the next break-in or threat. "Okay," I said. "But we do it right. No mistakes. This is entrapment, Evelyn. Anything he says could be thrown out. Not if I'm genuinely discussing a sale. Not if it's a legitimate business meeting. I'd done my research. Stayed up all night reading legal precedents. As long as police aren't actively coercing him, as long as I'm acting as a private citizen exploring options, it's legal. It's dangerous. Everything about this situation is dangerous. At least this way I control the danger. We spent 2 days setting it up. Thomas leaked information to Sterling's lawyer, carefully worded, suggesting I was overwhelmed considering my options. The response came within hours. Sterling's lawyer wanted to meet, discuss a potential settlement. No admission of guilt, but perhaps a mutually beneficial arrangement. We set it for Friday afternoon, 2 p.m., at a restaurant in town, public busy, lots of witnesses. But we didn't tell Sterling about the additional guests I'd invited. The same outfit I'd worn to Robert's will reading, the cardigan with the missing button, sensible shoes, hair pulled back simply. I wanted to look tired, defeated, like a woman who'd lost. Dylan and Rick arrived at noon. They'd be at the restaurant early, seated at separate tables, recording everything. Marcus would be outside, watching. And in the parking lot in an unmarked car would be Detective Sarah Chen from the State Police Fraud Division. She'd been investigating Pinnacle Ventures for months. Our case had given her the opening she needed. "I can't intervene unless he actively threatens you," she told me during our planning session. "But I'll be close, and I'll be recording. If he incriminates himself, if he says anything that connects him to the previous frauds, I can move." At 1:30, Thomas drove me to the restaurant. The Elk Ridge Cafe, Robert's favorite. Home-style cooking, red vinyl booths, waitresses who called everyone honey. We got there early, took a corner booth with clear sight lines. Rick was 2 tables over, newspaper open. Dylan sat at the counter nursing coffee. At 1:58, Sterling arrived. He looked confident. Expensive suit. Smiled at the hostess. Shook Thomas's hand like they were old friends. "Mrs. Gable," he sat across from me. "I'm glad you've reconsidered." "I haven't reconsidered anything. I'm listening, that's all." "Fair enough." He ordered coffee, waited until the waitress left. "Let's speak plainly. You're tired. This legal battle is costing you money you don't have. The property is costing you money. You're alone, scared, and ready for it to be over." Accurate so far. "My offer stands. $2 million. You sign the deed over, drop all charges, sign an NDA about our previous misunderstandings. You walk away with enough money to live comfortably for the rest of your life." "And if I refuse," Sterling smiled, sipped his coffee. "Then we proceed legally. My lawyers will challenge the restraining order, challenge the validity of your recordings, drag this out for years. You'll die buried in paperwork and legal fees." "You're threatening me again." "I'm stating facts. Business facts." He leaned forward. "Evelyn, may I call you Evelyn? You're not built for this fight. You're a retired cafeteria worker living on Social Security. I'm a businessman with unlimited resources. This ends one way. The only question is how much you suffer first." Thomas started to speak. I put a hand on his arm. "What about the other families?" I asked. "The Reeves, the Millers, the Pattersons, the Thompsons. Do they get settlements too? Compensation for what you stole?" Sterling's expression didn't change. "I don't know what you're talking about. The families Bella defrauded while working for you. The families you've been targeting for years. Bella acted alone. Any illegal activity was hers, not mine. I'm a legitimate businessman who made loans in good faith. And the fire at the Miller Hotel, the accident that hurt Patterson's father. Tragic coincidences. Nothing more. You admitted to them, on tape, in my living room." Sterling laughed. Actually laughed. "That recording, my lawyers will have it thrown out. You'll see. Entrapment. Emotional duress. Inadmissible." "What about Bella's recordings, the ones James made where she admits you ordered the fire that you've made people disappear before?" His smile finally faltered. "What recordings? The ones James sent to the FBI 2 days ago. Hours of Bella talking about your operations, your methods, your past crimes." Sterling's face went pale. "You're lying." "Am I call your lawyer? Ask him about the federal subpoena that was served this morning." I was bluffing. Partially. James had sent recordings to the FBI, but I had no idea if they'd actually issued a subpoena yet. Sterling stood abruptly. Coffee cup clattered. "This meeting is over." "Sit down, Mr. Sterling." Everyone turned. Detective Chen stood at the entrance, badge displayed. 2 uniformed officers behind her. "What is this?" Sterling demanded. "This is you being served with a federal arrest warrant." Chen walked forward calmly. "David Sterling, you're under arrest for wire fraud, racketeering, and conspiracy to commit murder. You have the right to remain silent." Sterling tried to run, made it 3 steps before the officers grabbed him. They cuffed him right there in front of a restaurant full of witnesses. As they led him out, he looked back at me, pure hatred in his eyes. "This isn't over," he hissed. "Yes, I said first wave the media. Sterling's arrest made national news. Multi-million-dollar con artist finally caught. The stories mentioned me, elderly woman outsmarts criminal enterprise. I hated the attention, but Thomas said it was good. Public awareness means public pressure. The prosecutors can't go easy on him now." Second wave, the other families. I got calls from the Reeves, the Millers, the Pattersons, crying, thanking me, asking if there was hope now for restitution. "There's hope," I told each of them. "Real hope." Third wave, Bella's arrest. She'd been out on bail, too. But James's recordings combined with Sterling's arrest gave prosecutors enough to charge her with conspiracy to commit murder. No bail this time, and fourth wave, James. "Mom?" His voice was different, clearer, steadier. "I heard about Sterling, about everything." "How are you?" I asked. "Sober. 30 days tomorrow. He paused. "It's harder than I expected, but I'm doing it." "I'm proud of you." "Don't be. Not yet. I need to earn that." He took a breath. The prosecutor called. "They want me to testify. Against both of them. Sterling and Bella." "Will you?" "Yes. I'm scared of what it means. What could happen to me legally? But I'll do it. It's the right thing." "It is." "And Mom, I've been thinking. About Sarah. About the kids. His first wife. His children, Emma 10 and Mason 8. I hadn't seen them in 3 years. I want to make amends. Try to rebuild. But I don't know if she'll even talk to me. I can reach out to her, if you want." "Would you?" "Of course." After we hung up, I cried. Not from sadness, from something else. Something that felt like hope. She was hesitant at first. Guarded. She'd been hurt badly by James's gambling and lies. "I don't know if I can trust him again," she said. "I'm not asking you to trust him. I'm asking if you'd let him try to earn it back. Slowly. With therapy. With proof." The kids ask about him. Emma especially. She doesn't understand why her dad disappeared. "Then let him try to explain. When he's ready. When he's been sober 90 days. 6 months. However long it takes." I paused. "Sarah, I know he hurt you. Hurt them. But people can change, if they want it badly enough. Do you think he wants it?" "I think he's finally ready to try." We talked for an hour, about James, about the kids, about the lodge. "I saw the news," Sarah said. "What you did, standing up to those people. You're braver than I ever was. You left a man who was destroying himself and protected your children. That's the definition of brave." Before we hung up, Sarah said, "If James stays sober, if he does the work, really does it, I'll bring the kids to visit. Maybe Thanksgiving." "Really?" "Maybe. No promises. But maybe." It was more than I'd hoped for. Sterling's lawyers tried everything motions to dismiss challenges to evidence delays. But the federal prosecutor was relentless. "We've got him on 17 counts," she told me during one of our meetings. "Fraud, racketeering, witness tampering, conspiracy. The recordings you made are just part of it. We've been building this case for years." "Years?" "Sterling's been on our radar since 2018, but he was careful, too careful, until you handed us everything we needed." The trial started in March. I attended every day, sat in the gallery with Thomas on one side, Marcus on the other. James testified on day 3. He looked different, thinner, clearer-eyed, present in a way I hadn't seen in years. He told the truth, all of it. His gambling, his debts, how Bella had manipulated him, how Sterling had threatened me. "I take full responsibility for my choices," James said under oath, "but I won't protect the people who exploited my weakness to commit crimes." The jury watched him closely. I couldn't tell if they believed him. if they saw him as victim or accomplice. Bella testified too, tried to paint herself as innocent, a dutiful wife who knew nothing. But James's recordings destroyed her defense, her own words slurred with wine admitting to fraud and violence. The verdict came on a Tuesday, after 3 days of deliberation. Guilty, on all counts, for both of them. Sterling got 25 years. Bella got 18. Neither would be eligible for parole for at least a decade. Fraud, conspiracy, lesser charges because he'd cooperated, because he'd testified, because the judge believed he was genuinely trying to change. 18 months, minimum security, eligible for work release after 9 months. "It's fair," James said when I visited him before he reported. "It's what I deserve. What will you do after work? Rebuild. Maybe try to be a father again. If Sarah will let me." "She will, I think. If you prove you mean it." "I do mean it, Mom. I swear I do." We hugged. I held him like I used to when he was small. "I love you," I said. "Even when I'm angry. Even when I'm disappointed. I love you." "I love you too." Snow melted. Creeks ran high. Wildflowers erupted across the meadow behind the lodge. I spent my days slowly bringing the lodge back to life. Not as a resort. As something better. Dylan helped me draw up plans. Rick handled the construction. Thomas navigated the legal requirements. We converted the lodge into a retreat center. Not commercial. Nonprofit. The Robert Gable Memorial Sanctuary. The sign out front read, "A place of healing for families in crisis. Free retreats for families dealing with addiction, with fraud, with financial abuse, with the aftermath of crime. A place where parents and children could rebuild trust, where healing could happen in the mountains Robert had loved." The National Land Trust agreed to the arrangement. The trigger clause allowed for nonprofit use. As long as no one profited, as long as the land stayed protected, they'd support it. We opened in June. Our first family, the Millers, who'd lost their hotel to Pinnacle Ventures, came for a week. They left with something they hadn't had in years, hope. I was in the kitchen preparing Robert's favorite recipe's sweet potato casserole herb stuffing apple pie when I heard the car. Through the window I saw them. Sarah's minivan. Emma and Mason tumbling out bundled in winter coats. And James released on work furlough for the holiday. Thinner, grayer, but smiling. Really smiling. Emma saw me first. "Grandma?" She ran. I met her on the porch. Swept her up even though my arms protested, even though my back complained. She felt solid and real and alive. "I missed you," she whispered into my neck. "I missed you too, sweetheart." Mason was more hesitant. 8 years old and already protective. He held Sarah's hand as they approached. "Hi, Grandma," he said carefully. "Hi, Mason, I'm so glad you came." James hung back, letting the kids have their moment. When our eyes met, I nodded. "Come here." He crossed the porch, stood uncertain. "Hi, Mom. Welcome home." We didn't hug. Not yet. That would come with time, with proof, with trust rebuilt slowly and carefully. But we sat together at dinner, all of us around Robert's old table, Emma chattering about school, Mason showing me his science project photos, Sarah and I trading recipes, James quiet but present, soaking it all in. After dinner, Emma found the guest book, the one Bella had shown me months ago. "What's this?" "It's for people who visit the lodge, to write their names, their stories." "Can I write in it?" "Of course." She opened to the first page, where I'd written simply, "Evelyn Gable, here." Below it, James had written during his last visit before rehab. "James Gable, starting over." Emma picked up the pen, wrote in careful cursive, "Emma Gable, my grandma is a superhero." Mason added his name too, then Sarah, one by one filling the page with names and hope and family. That night after they'd gone to sleep, Emma and Mason in the room that used to be James's, Sarah in the guest room, James on the couch, because that's what his parole required. I sat alone by the fire, held Robert's photo, the one from last summer. "We did it," I whispered. "Your lodge is safe. Your legacy is safe. And maybe we saved James, too." The fire crackled. Wind whistled through the pines. And for the first time since Robert died, I felt peace. The sanctuary had hosted 37 families, success stories and ongoing struggles and everything in between. The Millers were rebuilding their hotel. The Pattersons had opened a new coffee shop. The Reeves were still fighting for their ranch, but they had hope now. Legal support. Community. James completed his sentence. Got a job with a local nonprofit, ironically one that helped gambling addicts. He saw Emma and Mason every weekend, slowly, carefully rebuilding trust. He and Sarah weren't back together. Maybe they never would be. But they were co-parenting, communicating, healing. Sterling and Bella remained in prison, appeals denied, restitution orders issued. They'd spend the next decade at least paying for their crimes. And me, I lived in the lodge, managed the sanctuary, hosted families, told Robert's story to anyone who'd listen. I was 68 years old, arthritis in my hands, bad knees, gray hair I'd stopped coloring, but I was alive, strong, free. And every morning I woke up in my brother's house, my house now, and watched the sun rise over the mountains he'd loved. Emma is 15, wants to be a lawyer, like the ones who helped you, Grandma. Mason is 13, loves carpentry, helps Rick with repairs at the sanctuary every summer. James has been sober for 6 years. Remarried not to Sarah, but to a woman named Claire who works in addiction counseling. They understand each other's demons. Sarah is engaged to a kind man who loves Emma and Mason like his own. The sanctuary has helped over 200 families. We've added a second building for workshops, art therapy, financial literacy classes, and I'm 73. Still here, still strong. Sometimes families ask me, weren't you afraid when you stood up to them? Terrified, I tell them. Every single day. Then why did you do it? I think about Robert, about the letter he left, about his faith that I'd be strong enough when it mattered. Because someone had to, and it turned out that someone was me. They nod, understanding. Because they're here doing the same thing, standing up, fighting back, refusing to be victims. On my 73rd birthday, Thomas brings a package, official looking, legal seal. Inside is a letter from the National Land Trust. Dear Mrs. Gable, the Robert Gable Memorial Sanctuary has been designated as a protected heritage site. The property will remain in trust indefinitely. Upon your death, management will transfer to a board of directors, but the mission will continue. Your brother's vision and yours will live on. Forever. I read it twice, 3 times. Then I walk outside, stand where Robert and I used to stand as children, where we'd watch the sunset and dream about the future. We did it, I whisper to the mountains, to the sky, to my brother's memory. They tried to take it, but we protected it. Forever. The wind carries my words away. Somewhere I like to think Robert hears them and smiles.